am here in studio with Weymouth Mayor Robert Hedlund. Thank you for making it here in the traffic and the heat. We appreciate you joining us today.
I know I should have tuned into your traffic report earlier.
Yes, then you would have known. You would have been stuck in traffic. But you made it here just in time.
You can automate your traffic reports now. Just plug the thing in and say, traffic stinks today.
Everywhere.
Right.
You know the drill. It's the South Shore. Avoid all the usual spots at the usual times. Hey, it's great to have you in here. We've been interviewing you from here for years, and you know why I called you in. You're stepping down July 15th as Mayor of Weymouth.
Yes.
Why?
A whole host of reasons. A lot of personal element to it. And I told someone the other day, when you're dealing with your own personal problems that in some cases could be significant. I'm dealing with a couple little health issues, and then somebody stops you in the supermarket to talk about a pothole on their street. Mm-hmm. The aggravation level gets magnified. Normally that doesn't bother me, but when you're dealing with your own stuff and then you got to listen to everybody else's stuff, it kind of adds up a little bit, And I felt it was time, and I didn't want to do the third term. There was a lot of encouragement to do so. A lot of the staff really pushed me, and we thought about if we could get to the halfway point of the term, and I was going to leave maybe at the halfway point. You could schedule the election in conjunction with the council races this fall, so there's no chaos involved. There's no cost to the town. That would be kind of the time to do it, and in order to do it, I have to notify the clerk in the month of June. So that's the route we decided to go.
No.
I decided to go.
No, is that date significant? Because isn't that your birthday?
No.
It's not?
No, I wanted to get into the new fiscal year. Wanted to give people, enough lead time. I went back and forth on how forward to go on the date certain. Mm-hmm. I figured I wanted to have a little bit of the summer left.
You got to get that. You got to get that.
And the other part of it, too, was I want to see that, some of the progress we'd made continue. And who was going to take over was a big consideration, and what was going to happen to some of the key staff. And it's kind of funny that, our council president becomes acting mayor through the rest of the term. Right. And he agreed that he would run. And my chief of staff, who's probably the most important person in town, Ted Langell, his position was, I'll stay on if Mike's going to run, and Mike's position was, I'll run if Ted's going to stay on. So everything seemed to be in alignment for it to be a good time to make the move. And I get some family considerations going on with that, too. So
you're a busy guy, and we appreciate you coming in here. I've been interviewing you and talking with you since you were a state senator.
What year did you start here?
1990, 35 years ago.
So that's when I first ran.
Yes. And I do remember, and I remember a couple of really good heated debates in here too. Like, is furniture going to go flying out of the room?
I have a lot of memories within the walls of this station.
Exactly.
And being on both sides of the mic, if you will.
That's right.
Right.
I do remember that. Of course,
I think the best one was I decided to come here on my motorcycle to one of the debates with Steve Lynch, not the congressman, the other Steve Lynch, and I took my motorcycle. It was a nice, late summer, early fall night. I'm thinking, what the heck? I'm on radio. No one's going to see what I'm looking like. And I show up, and there's a Patriot Ledger photographer here. And then Steve Lynch walks in, and he's got cut-off dungaree shorts, a stained, ripped white T-shirt, and he had been just painting his house. And we sat down. We both looked like bums, and the Patriot Ledger photographer got us both. And there was something sticking in his pocket.
Oh, I think it was a paint scraper.
It was a paint scraper.
That's right. I remember that.
And then he put it on the table, and you said live on the air, Mr. Lynch, would you please remove that weapon from the table?
I do remember that because you guys look like the cover of GQ sitting there. There've been some good moments here. You have been in the public spotlight and in public life for so long. Maybe it's too early, but what's next?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. Well, I do know. I should say I do know what's next. So. This is serious. This isn't a joke. But I always told a friend of mine who has a sausage cart outside Fenway Park on Lansdowne Street, the Sausage King.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
Mark Gannon. He's been very kind to me through the years, shall we say.
Okay.
And I told him that my reintroduction into the private sector, I want to work a homestand with him on the sausage cart for free just to pay off my tab. So I'm going to be in I don't know what the schedule looks like for the Red Sox, but late July, early August, you'll see me outside Fenway hawking sausages with the Sausage King. I guess I'll be the prince.
What's your skill set like for sausages?
I'm not a great cook, but I think I can handle slapping a sausage in a bun with some onions and peppers.
Because people expect good stuff out of that. And
as a bonus, I can go and watch a few innings and come back out and just take in the scene on Lansdowne Street. And people think I'm joking, but I'm serious.
That's okay. God, maybe we'll send a reporter down there to watch you and working on your craft. Because I know that you had a restaurant at one point, didn't you? At
one point, I had 2.
Are you thinking about doing anything like that again?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not good on the culinary side, and I probably wasn't the best on the operation side. I was like a silent partner, if you will. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that. It's a tough business. It's very tough, but when it works, it's rewarding, and there's a lot of frustration. But I could see with the right people getting involved, but I couldn't take it on as a lead situation.
What about music? You've always been one of the biggest music fans I've ever known.
I'd love to come here and spin records. Absolutely.
Did people know that you had a secret identity and did that years ago? What was that name of yours?
Cliff Stone.
Cliff Stone, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I came in, a guy that had worked here had heard me talking about music, and he said, come on, we got to go in and see Ed Perry. And Ed interviewed me for about 45 minutes, and finally I said, well, what do you think, Ed? And he had a negative reaction. He said, that SUCKS.
Probably after you started talking about the electric furs, something like that.
Psychedelic furs.
Yeah, was that it?
But he said to me, but he said to me, it seems like you're passionate about it. Would you like to give it a try? Mm-hmm. And it worked out pretty well. We had a lot of fun with it. And the second part of that story that you didn't know, the gentleman that brought me in to see Ed had some contacts in the radio world, mm-hmm. and he said, "You're sounding good. I think you're ready for the big time." And I interviewed. I won't mention the guy's name. He was the station manager at WEGQ 93.7, the mm-hmm. Eagle, which mm-hmm. he loved the idea. He said, what are you doing 10 o'clock Sunday nights? And I said, I'm in. I said, you don't even have to pay me. Just see if you like what I'm doing. I just need an engineer with me. I didn't know the technical side of it. And within, I think, 3 days, Entercom bought out American Radio Systems and fired the guy. So my big break went out the window. But it was
timing, Bob.
Well, it was probably a good thing because, I mean, I didn't want it to be too much of a distraction from the day-to-day gig, which was state senator at the time.
Sure.
But I am passionate about music and love music.
Always have. And, of course, you're the one that started Monday Night Talk here on WATD.
Yeah, I always thought that was a good idea to have kind of a local political talk show, mm-hmm. keep it social-oriented. It took a while for Ed to
Ted, whatever that guy's name is.
I think he heard me filling in for Howie Carr one night, and then he called me and said, "Hey, I think that show might work."
Isn't that funny? Well,
but that was a lot of fun, and I wish I had more time to dedicate to it and make that show even better. But we did have a lot of fun, and Kevin's kept it going.
Yeah, he absolutely has. Now, since you have been in politics for so long at the State House and here as mayor of Weymouth, what do you think works in the political system here, and what do you think doesn't work? You're free to speak.
Oh, my God. Things are so much different than when I first ran. I mean, mm-hmm. It was less divided. There was less of an ideological partisan rift. You could work together. There's still an element of that in the Massachusetts legislature, but and I don't want to get too partisan here, but mm-hmm. like some of the people on the fringe that the moderates didn't take seriously mm-hmm. are sort of driving the agenda now. There's less moderates in the Mass legislature. Let me leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's not enough, obviously, party balance right now. There's no opposition party to the extent that we need it.
Now, as Weymouth mayor, I have to say, you surprised me how well you did. I don't mean that.
I surprised myself.
I figured, the whole idea of, God, do I have to wear a tie? Do I have to be at a meeting at 8:30? I thought, you're more of a freeform kind of guy. I'm just trying to be very tactful.
Well, I took a freeform approach to the job, but I was lucky that I had a lot of good people. And, I just really steered the bus, and I had a lot of people power on the bus, and there were a lot of good people when I went in there that just needed to be unleashed. And there was some changes that had to be made on how the financing worked in the town. Ted came in, made big changes as he was chief of staff, but he was really the de facto CFO. And really gave us some great financial flexibility. The town had not been managing debt service properly, things like that. So we were able to take on a lot of capital projects without going to the taxpayers for an override. And if you look what we've done compared to wealthier towns around us that rely on the debt exclusion overrides to get a capital project done, it's nothing short of miraculous what we've been able to do.
Well, you know what I was very impressed by? I don't live in Weymouth, but I had to go to La Rosse to shoot recently. And I used to avoid Columbian Square because it was like they got a bullseye on your car, especially if you're trying to take a left-hand turn. I went there, and with everything that's been done and with the lights, I actually pulled into a space right in front of the place without a problem and got in and out. And I thought, if I lived in Weymouth, I'd vote for you alone, the fact that this finally got done.
Well, Weymouth is really 5 villages. We don't really have a downtown. That's the closest thing we have to a downtown. And there was no attention given to it. I mean, even the parking lot looked like the U.S. Air Force strafed it when I came in. And that was the first thing.
That's true.
That was actually the first capital project I undertook. We called it Phase 1. We fixed the parking lot. Then we dusted off all the old studies. And it's funny, I met with Mayor Madden, who's no longer with us, and that's another consideration, by the way. I am Mayor Madden's age when he died. I'm the only living mayor in Weymouth. Sue Kay passed away, and I'm like, I don't want to die in office here.
It's a tough job, obviously.
So Mayor Madden had told me his biggest regret was really not taking on the signalization of Columbian Square. It's been studied and studied and studied for 30 years. We dusted off all the old studies. I said, if we can get consensus, we'll move forward to it on the project. And I was amazed that throughout the planning process, we were able to get residents, elected officials, and businesses to agree on a design. So we went forward with it. We got a lot of complaints when the construction was going on. You would have thought the end of the world had happened. Of course, none of those people that complained on social media want to say, well, maybe I was wrong now. But now that it's done, people seem, and by the way, those of you that go through Columbian Square and hit that light, and that pedestrian light's too long, and the no turn on Union Street, we're tweaking all those. So we think that the traffic flow is even going to get better. We're making some changes to that.
That's terrific. Now, what about Union Point? What's going to finally happen to pull everything together?
Yeah, so that's interesting. We can go on forever about that, obviously, because
it's been
a saga since 1995.
I remember when it was still the South Weymouth Naval Air Station.
South Weymouth Naval Air Station is the last remaining base closure from 1995 that hasn't been redeveloped in the United States of America. This thing has been riddled with starts and stops. Of course, we had that corrupt master developer that left it in disarray. The new guys have been doing great. They're on a pathway. We've got the MWRA water on the way to unlock the development potential of it. So it's on the right path now. It's taken a long time. These guys have their act together. The 3 towns have agreed on a plan. The 3 towns have rezoned it. So it's moving forward. And I think you're actually going to see some announcements soon, possibly late this year, on some retail development that's going to occur on the Parkway as Phase 1. So things are moving forward there.
When you're leaving office, if there's one thing that you want people to remember you for having accomplished as Weymouth mayor, what would it be?
I just have to say, in a broad sense, kind of reworking the finances, which allowed us to do what we're doing. I mean, the capital projects we've been doing, infrastructure projects that people don't see. We got a sewer overflow. People ahead of me, prior to me, ignored it because it was a complicated engineering situation through wetlands, land takings, and people kind of kicked the can, and it was very expensive. And people don't see that. That's a $9 million sewer infrastructure project. So it's kind of like all of the infrastructure work we've done in a general sense, I'd have to say. All our new ball fields, playing fields. We've created 3 new parks. We took our incinerator down, turned it into a park. The road work, we used to do about $1.5 million a year. We've been at high. This year we're only doing 5, but we've generally been doing $8 million a year. And we've been catching up on road work. I mean, we've got a town I used to represent that doesn't do a paving job without a debt exclusion override. So I'd say just the general infrastructure work we've been able to do. We built a new school. It's the 2nd largest middle school in the state, a new library without an override. So things like that.
It's interesting. A lot of the town meetings, they go with the old form. At the end, they give instructions to the selectmen or select board about what people want to see going forward. So if you could leave your instructions to the government in Weymouth going forward, what would your words of wisdom to them be?
Well,
keep it clean, Bob.
There's some advice as it relates to bargaining with unions, which I won't say over the air.
Okay.
We have a lot of good, hardworking union locals in Weymouth that are good to work with, and we have some that are very difficult. And, those labor relations can be some of the biggest headaches in the job, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Anything I didn't ask you about that you think our listeners might want to know about Bob Hedlund, Weymouth Mayor, now getting ready to go to the next phase of whatever that is, except for the stint with the sausage guy?
Yeah, if anyone's got anything out there and you want me to send a resume along, let me know.
Hey, Bob, we hope you'll come back and check in with us from time to time.
Let
us know what you're doing.
I got a little free time. I'm always willing to fill in for you guys.
Oh, that's good. And you know what? I want to send a reporter down and watch you in front of Fenway with the sausage stuff.
I'll let you know.
I always appreciate you joining us. Again, Mayor Robert Hedlund, finishing up his term, going to be resigning, leaving early, July 15th. We're going to post this up online. Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm Christine James, 95.9 WATD.